you have a color. You checked a box for it on a form once, or someone else checked it for you, and it felt permanent, fixed, factory installed, the one thing about you that was simply true. But the color of your skin is not a fact about you. It's a fact about the sky your ancestors lived under. Somewhere in your family's deep past, the amount of sunlight falling on a patch of ground rewrote your body, and it did it more than once, in more than one direction. The skin you're in is the sun's handwriting. We tend to think of skin color as one of the deepest, oldest things about a person. Something ancient, something settled long ago, and passed down unchanged, like a family name. But almost everything about that instinct is wrong. Skin color is not a mark of who your people are. It is a record of where they stood and how much light fell on them while they stood there. It is not a ladder with one shade at the bottom and another at the top. It is a dial, and the hand that turns the dial is the sun. To understand why, you have to stop thinking about color and start thinking about a problem. A problem every human body on Earth is still solving right now, including yours, in silence, without asking you. Right now, if there is any sunlight touching your skin, your body is doing two opposite things with it at the same time. It is using that light to build something you cannot live without, and it is using that same light to destroy something else you also cannot live without. One kind of light. Two effects, pulling in opposite directions. Every shade of human skin that has ever existed is an answer to that single impossible question. How do you let in exactly enough sun and not one ray more? Start with what the sun gives you. When ultraviolet light hits your skin, it triggers a chain of reactions that ends in vitamin D. This is not a minor vitamin. Without it, your body cannot properly absorb calcium. Bones soften and bend. In children, the growing skeleton warps under its own weight. For most of human history, there were no supplements, no fortified milk, no pills. There was one reliable source of vitamin D for the entire species, and it was the sky. Sunlight was not a luxury, it was structural. Your bones were built by weather. Now the other side, that same ultraviolet light, the light that builds your bones, also destroys a molecule called folate. Folate is what your body uses to build and repair DNA, to divide cells cleanly, to run a pregnancy. When a developing baby doesn't get enough folate, the results are catastrophic. The neural tube, the structure that becomes the brain and spine, fails to close. Strong sun can strip folate out of the blood. So here is the trap, laid out plainly. Too little sun, and your bones fail. Too much sun, and your ability to reproduce and even survive fails. Your skin sits in the middle of that trap, and its only job in this story is to control the dose. That is what melanin is, not a color. A filter. The dark pigment in skin is one of the most effective natural sunscreens that exists. It absorbs and scatters ultraviolet light before it can reach down and burn away your folate. More melanin, more protection. Less melanin, more light let through. Now, hold that thought, melanin, as a dial that controls how much sun gets in, and let's go back to where the story starts. Picture a stretch of open savanna in East Africa, somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago. Grass to the horizon, a scatter of thorn trees throwing thin shade that moves with the hours, and above all of it, a sun that does not let up. This is where our lineage was becoming what it is, and it is a place drenched in ultraviolet light. The sun here is not gentle. It is relentless, overhead, year-round, pouring down radiation with enough force to tear folate straight out of the bloodstream. Now put a body into that scene. A small band of early humans moving across the open ground in the middle of the day when the big predators rest, and a walking ape can cover distance. They are exposed. There is nowhere to hide from that sky for hours at a time, and no reason to try. For any creature living out there, pale skin is not neutral. It is a liability. Every hour under that sun, unprotected skin is losing folate. It cannot spare, and a body low on folate is a body that struggles to carry a pregnancy safely, that loses children before they are born. Pale skin, in that place, is a slow leak in the one system. that decides whether your line continues at all. The individuals who happen to be darker lost less. Their children were more likely to survive. Multiply that tiny edge across thousands of generations, under that unblinking sun, and the outcome is not a coincidence. It is the only outcome that was ever likely. Something else was happening to our ancestors around this time that made the problem sharper. They were losing their fur. As early humans became endurance walkers and runners on the hot, open savanna, they evolved to sweat to cool a big, expensive brain by shedding heat through bare skin. But bare skin has a cost. Fur had been shading the body for millions of years. Take it away, and you expose living skin directly to that brutal equatorial sun, unfiltered. For the first time, naked skin under that sky needed a new kind of protection. Fast. And so, as the fur thinned, the skin beneath it darkened. Dark skin was not incidental. It was the shield that made a hairless, sweating, sun-exposed human body possible at all. So this is the true starting point of the entire human story, and it is worth saying without flinching. For the overwhelming majority of the time, our species and its ancestors have existed. Every single human being on Earth had dark skin. Dark skin is not one branch of the human family. It is the trunk. It is the original setting the sun dialed in over enormous stretches of time in the place where we became human. Everything that comes after is a variation played on top of it. Now something changes. Our ancestors start to leave. Beginning roughly 60,000 years ago, wave after wave of humans walked out of Africa and began spreading across the entire planet. And as they moved, especially as they moved north, the sky above them quietly transformed. The relentless overhead sun of the equator gave way, degree by degree of latitude, to something thinner, weaker. In the far north, for months at a time, the sun barely climbs. It hangs low, its light slanting through more atmosphere, much of its ultraviolet scattered and lost, before it ever reaches the ground. Now flip the entire problem on its head. On the equator, the danger was too much sun-destroying folate, and dark skin was the shield. But move that same dark-skinned body to a gray northern sky, and the shield becomes a curse. That heavily pigmented skin, so perfectly tuned to block a savage sun, is now blocking light that is already scarce. Under a weak northern sun, dark skin can filter out so much ultraviolet that the body can no longer make enough vitamin D. And you know what that means. Soft bones, warped skeletons, difficult pregnancies. A body slowly starving for a light that isn't strong enough to reach it. Picture a settlement in northern Europe, thousands of years into that migration. Winter. The sun clears the tree line for only a few hours, low and pale. And even at noon, it carries almost no ultraviolet worth the name. A child grows up here under that thin light, wrapped against the cold, most of the skin that light could reach, kept covered for survival's sake. Every source of vitamin D this child once had at the equator is gone. There is little sun, and what there is, dark skin blocks. The bones pay for it. This is the quiet famine, not of food, but of light, and it does not announce itself. It just slowly bends a skeleton that should have grown straight. This is the pressure that turned the dial the other way. Under those pale northern skies, a person who happened to be born with slightly lighter skin, letting a little more of that weak sunlight through, could make more vitamin D. Better bones, healthier children, more of those children surviving, to have children of their own. Over hundreds of generations, in a place where sunlight had become precious, lighter skin was no longer a leak. It was an advantage. The same trait that would have killed you at the equator now kept you alive. And so, slowly, in the north, the dial turned back toward pale, not because pale is better, but because the sky had changed the question. But here is the detail that breaks the whole idea of a simple line from one color to another. This lightning did not happen once. It happened again and again, separately, in different places, through different routes. The lighter skin of people in the far north of Europe and the lighter skin of people in the far north of East Asia are not the same event copied over. They arose largely through different genetic changes different mutations doing similar work in populations that had already been apart for a very long time. Think about what that means. Two groups of people, separated by a continent, never in contact, each facing the same thin northern sun, and each, on its own, drifting toward paler skin through its own private set of genetic accidents. Neither group inherited the trait from the other. Neither one was following the other's path. They simply ran into the same problem, and, given enough time, stumbled into overlapping solutions. The sun set the same kind of problem in two different rooms, not enough light, and evolution, working with whatever it had on hand in each place, arrived at similar answers by different roads. Biologists have a name for this. It's called convergence, and it is one of the most quietly profound things in all of nature. The same pressure applied to different starting material, bending life toward the same shape from different directions. That is not a ladder anyone climbed. That is the same environmental pressure solved more than once in parallel. And it isn't only pale that evolved. All across the world, in every band of latitude, skin was being tuned to its local dose of sun. The deep brown of South Asia, the range of tones across the Americas, the skin of peoples living under high mountain sun, or filtered rainforest light. Each one is a setting dialed in by generations under a particular sky. There is no center and no edges. There is only a planet's worth of different suns, and bodies quietly matching them. Now, for the part that will genuinely surprise most people, the part that shows just how recent all of this is. We tend to imagine that if light skin exists in Europe, it must be ancient there. Primeval, baked in from the moment humans arrived. It is not. Picture Europe, around 8,000 years ago. The people living there, hunting, fishing, gathering across the continent were, according to the DNA we've recovered from their remains, still dark-skinned. Light skin, the trait so many people treat as the oldest and most fixed thing imaginable, had not yet swept across the continent. It was still spreading, still being turned up by the dial, arriving in some places later than farming, later than pottery, later than the first painted caves. On the timescale of our species, pale European skin is not ancient at all. It is almost brand new. Let that reorder your sense of time. The cave paintings of Lascaux are older than white skin in much of Europe. The dog was our companion before it. The story you may have carried of fixed, timeless, primeval colors, sorted into ancient categories, collapses. The moment you look at the actual dates, what you are looking at when you look at human skin color across the world is not a set of old, separate origins. It is a single species, one family, fanning out across every kind of sky in a geological eye blink and adjusting fast to the light it found. So come back now, out of deep time, to where we started. Come back to the form with the box on it. Come back to the word you'd use, the word someone might use for you, the thing that felt so fixed and so fundamental. It isn't fundamental. It's a setting. The color of your skin is the record of a bargain. Your ancestors' bodies struck with the sun, how much to let in for the bones, how much to keep out for the blood struck and restruck across continents, and tens of thousands of years turned one way near the equator, and the other way under thin northern light, and turned independently more than once in more than one place. It was never a rank. It was never a beginning or a destination. It was an answer to a question the sky was asking, and the sky asked something different. Everywhere your ancestors stood, you are not a color. You are the descendant of a body that solved an impossible problem over and over, wherever it went. And the shade you see in the mirror is not the deepest thing about you. It's just the last note. In a very long song about light, if you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. We make videos like this one every week, about ancient human behavior, about what your body still remembers, and about the gap between the world you were built for and the one you actually live in. If that is something you want more of, hit subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it tells the algorithm that this kind of storytelling is worth keeping alive. See you in the next one.